Hey guys, this is Nephis here. What's up? It's time to Nephis and chill with the PTS version 5.2.2 PTS patch notes for the Dragonhold DLC update 24. It's finally out. It's a day late, but we're finally looking at the PTS patch notes for this week's cycle. And I did read most of it beforehand, and I've already read what a lot of people think about the patch notes so far. It's mostly mixed. A lot of people are positive about it, a lot of people are negative about it. So let's review the patch notes. And remember, I'm going to be looking at this as well in the context of after our meeting, after the class representative meeting with the developers, where we did meet with them on the 25th of September and relayed a lot of the feedback given to us by you guys, by a lot of the different segments of the community on a lot of various things. So hopefully that they will continue listening to the feedback, and it seems like from some of the things I've read already, they did take note and into consideration what people are saying, so that's good news in a way. On the quick side note, they did delay the patch notes here because of a new event they want to introduce, Dawn in the Dragon Guard. It's basically event event, and you can like get double XP, double drops or something, and both elsewheres, and whatever. It's a pretty cool looking event because it's like, oh, dragons will now appear in base game zones like Dragonfall, Davern's Watch, Elden Ring. But I think we can all agree here right now that we're really more interested in the combat and class identity aspect of the patch notes rather than a random event kind of just randomly thrown in there. But no, you know what I mean. Like, no offense, like this content looks pretty cool. It will probably look great visually, but right now me and a lot of people are very interested in combat changes. And the very first thing you can see here is combat and gameplay known issues. The feedback on the adjustments made to Shadow Image have been heard. We're looking for a way to ensure this ability's actual range is always reflected on the tooltip and ability bar, so we can properly increase the teleport range without leading back into situations where you thought you could activate the ability but couldn't. So this was one of the many points that was brought up, like the reduction 22 meters and 28 meters on Shadow Image for Nightblades, kind of off, right? Kind of weird, kind of unnecessary. And people were saying, you won't be able to escape your enemies in Cyrodiil, especially around towers or even boulder cliff areas. 28 meters seemed the perfect distance for maybe 1/3 of the time, I think one person said. And that shouldn't be treated as a traditional gap closure nor like streak, as it requires a different kind of thinking, different kind of placement of the skill. So I'm glad they are listening on that. The next thing, in the future patch during this PTS cycle, we'll be increasing the total damage of any damage over time abilities that were adjusted in PTS version 5.2.0, and that's the first week of the PTS, by approximately 20%. So they're basically saying, okay, instead of a 60-some% nerf to your dots, making them almost completely useless, we're going to instead nerf them by 33-ish%, as it says here. This means there will be an overall reduction in damage from dot abilities of approximately 33% compared to what they are on live. On paper, this sounds okay, but I'm kind of skeptical that this is a sweet spot for the dots. I think they should probably rebuff it back a little bit more. Not too much, obviously, not back to where Scalebreaker is, but a little bit more. But again, I don't know. No one knows, because this is going to be coming in the future patch. I have no idea when it's going to come. I hope it comes very soon, at the very least this coming week, for next week, so we can test it, so people can test it and give the feedback on, hey, it's still lacking. Dots are still lacking. And then hopefully they'll also rebuff it again. Or if it's actually a sweet spot for dots, then whatever, right? Hit the mark. Many passives and item sets related damage over time abilities will receive some adjustments to ensure their total power remains closer to their intended power budget. Okay, it's a minor note, but still important to take note of. And this is a huge thing as well for Wardens over here. And this was also something given on the feedback sheet for the September 25th meeting, where players were asked to send feedback about what they thought was a good optimal range for proccing the off balance off of their dive ability where you send a cliff diver, right? And a lot of people submitted feedback saying it was like a wide range of numbers actually. Some people thought 4 meters was good, some people thought 8 meters was perfect, whatever. But mostly people wanted to have the option to get this off balance proc from this ability on both a melee and a range spec. And some people say, you know, there shouldn't be a requirement at all to proc this off balance. But we'll see. We'll see what the magic number is for proccing the off balance on dive. Now, this is the last point, but it's of course not the least important. Measured vulnerability will now receive some adjustments in the future patch to ensure it's still a powerful tool, but cannot be stacked to the point where you want a world of only necromancers. So this kind of feedback comes more from the endgame PvE area. A lot of people tell me, and I also see this too, that not a lot of progression groups, not a lot of mid-tier groups use too many necromancers, but at the same time you have endgame groups right now completing a Silencing Torrent hard mode in like less than 4 minutes. You have people doing outrageous runs in Veteran Maw of Lorcaj. You have people pretty much powering through Sunspire for the Godslayer achievement just with stamina necromancers, mind you. Halls of Fabrication also is pretty much dumbed down because of the major vulnerability. In essence, major vulnerability, not necessarily the class itself. So major vulnerability receiving some adjustments is good news. So we'll see if what happens. But basically, there's actually, I would say, 3 schools of thought regarding how we should address major vulnerability, and I'll tell you guys right now. Some people think we should add a cooldown to major vulnerability, making it apply on the first hit, and the first week of patch notes said, okay, we're gonna make major vulnerability apply on the last hit or something like that. And that, I don't think that's a good change for either PvP or PvE. So a lot of people are saying, including myself, hey, just make it apply on the first hit. So that's the first solution. Make it apply on the first hit. Make it a cooldown to major vulnerability, so you know that you can't just chain major vulnerability. Even though it does sort of award groups for coordination, I wouldn't say it's incredibly hard anyway to really coordinate it. Especially on PC with an add-ons. I can definitely see it being harder on console, but at the same time, you know what I mean. The second proposed solution that a lot of people also say is make major vulnerability last longer, but adjust its value, like decrease the value of major vulnerability. Instead of 30% more damage done to the target, do like 15% or something. A lot of people have been suggesting that. The third solution some people have been suggesting is like you shorten the duration of major vulnerability and still have it apply in the first hit as well. But overall, I have no idea what they're gonna do with this. Hopefully, whichever it is, it's gonna be good, and it will take into consideration both PvP, PvE, and not nerfing necromancers too hard either. Like it's pretty hard. It's a pretty hard subject to tackle. If they are intent on keeping the original value of 30% damage taken on major vulnerability, like I would say the cooldown solution would be good. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of it either, like putting a cooldown on a major, minor buff or debuff, but I don't know. So for combat and gameplay, it's like not really relevant. So let's scroll down actually to the actual combat changes. Okay, combat and abilities. Fixed an issue, we're sprinting, okay, whatever. Fixed an issue, fixed an issue, fixed an issue. Okay, Dragon Knight. So combustion, this passive no longer has a cooldown in order to help the Dragon Knight sustain itself, since it doesn't have a class-based dedicated resource ability such as Dark Exchange or Siphoning Strikes. I think this was a really, really needed and good change. I hope they keep it. Definitely gonna help the sustain for Dragon Knights for sure in both PvE and PvP. So I really hope they keep it. I think this was part of the feedback as well, regarding sustain for Dragon Knights, and also the damage of their new abilities like Stone Fist or whatever. So let's keep reading. Fiery Breath, Engulfing Flames, this ability's bonus flame damage modifier now uses both your spell damage and your max magicka rather than only spell damage to allow more builds to engage with the morph. I'm not exactly sure what they really mean with this until I see it on PTS. I'm going to assume maybe... so right now it's like 3,300 spell damage you need to get the original full value of the 10% flame damage taken on the target. So is it like... I'm guessing it's like a mix. So if you have a certain amount of max magicka and you have maybe like 2,000 spell damage or something, will that compound together and can you boost it with, you know, to the full value of 10%? I don't know. We'll see on the PTS. Searing Heat fixed an issue where rank 2 of this ability was applying its damage done to all ardent flame abilities rather than only the list. Okay, increased the damage bonus to 33% from 10% to help distinguish Dragon Knight's damage over time abilities as superior to others. This was also a good change. A lot of people have been worried about the class identity of the Dragon Knight as a dot class, as a damage over time class. And the fact that they put this in and even said, you know, it helps distinguish the DK dots over the generic dots or the other class dots is pretty good. Earthen Heart, now Stone Fist is a very controversial skill to say, or not controversial, but a very not like skill in terms of both class identity and I think the base damage was a bit too low according to a lot of people. But anyway, Stone Fist adjusted the ability in the Stone Giant morph based on PTS feedback. Okay, and this is merely part 1. So let's keep reading. Reduce the maximum stacks required to stun the target to 3 from 5, which is actually a pretty good change for both PvE and PvP. PvP, it can depend, I guess. Increase the damage taken per stack of stagger with the Stone Giant morph to 45, up from 25. So this is going to be pretty interesting, actually, especially for PvE raids. To offset and slightly buff the adjustments to the stacks. Please note that while this number may look small, it works with everything, like all the damage. That's pretty cute. Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see in a PvE raid. Wow. Okay. Reduce the duration of the stacks to 5 seconds per application, down from 10 seconds to help ensure that non-damage focused builds cannot maintain Stone Giant's powerful tool. Group tool of damage taken as efficiently since it works on, again, literally everything. So this is basically saying, okay, DK tanks, we don't want you to become the Stone Fist bitch, right? So that's why they reduced the duration of the stacks to 5 seconds per application, down from 10 seconds. And they also have a little note here. Each time you attempt to apply stagger to an enemy, the duration of those stacks is refreshed. So you don't need to hit the enemy 3 times within 5 seconds of the initial application. So you just gotta keep it up in your rotation and it'll be fine. And here's the developer comment. In response to many points of feedback we've seen centered on this ability, we're going to spend some more time improving the gameplay pattern and visual storytelling this ability provides. So a lot of people have been complaining, hey, this feels like I'm throwing poop at someone. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't make sense. Why did you not give us a stamina version of Whip? Well, yeah, a lot of people are asking for the stamina version of Whip. While we won't be able to do another large pass in this update, the changes above fit more in line with the direction we plan to take with the ability. The lesser stack requirement should help in building up to a moment of devastating stun, feel more tangible in terms of landing a hectic combat, with a shorter duration should give opponents more time to react to it. They raised a valid point. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with it, but they did raise a valid point. But the key thing here is, for sure, we're going to spend some more time improving the gameplay pattern and visual storytelling. So I'm going to guess they're going to probably change the visuals of how it looks and so forth. Because a lot of people have been... and I saw that video of Dots Gaming. Someone clipped him like laughing at it. I think a lot of people have made it pretty clear that it looks and feels silly as a skill. Especially in regards to class identity as a DK. So Sorcerer, Daedric Summoning, Bound Armor. They're also gonna, I guess, add or rework the effect, the voice of, not the voice effect, sorry, the sound effect of the skill to help make it feel better. Okay. So Templar, Dawn's Wrath, and this was the backlash thing was also on the feedback thing. Where is it? I think it's somewhere here. Oh man, I'm trying to read as fast as possible. I'm sorry, guys. I'm pretty sure it was here. Was it here? Oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure it was here. Okay, that's the Warden dive I was talking about earlier. Okay, I'm pretty sure it was here somewhere, but man, I cannot find it for some reason. Whatever, anyway, it's there somewhere. Okay, sorry about that. But this was brought up too, that it shouldn't crit, like Backlash or Power to Light, whatever, or Purifying Light, shouldn't crit and get amped by everybody hitting the target. So I guess here it says the ability and its morphs will now only store damage dealt from the caster of the ability rather than everyone or anyone hitting the afflicted target. I think they want to keep it, they want to be able to keep it critting. I mean, they just did fix that, you know, it can crit now, right? I think a few weeks ago or a month ago now that they fixed it, that they can, that Power to Light and so on can finally crit. And this was done to offset some of the staggering power, the ability to bring group situations where low damage builds can apply the ability and generate free real estate from their allies' contribution. So this is again sort of a thing for PvP as well. I think it's fair, personally, in my opinion, for it to crit, but I don't think, I think if they're going to take one thing away, they decide to take away the fact that it could be amped by everybody else besides yourself. Well, rather including yourself. So I think this was a fair exchange. They also fixed an issue where these abilities would conflict one another if more than one player casts the same morph of the ability on target. So if you can finally bring a Stamplar, boys, you can finally bring a Stamplar to PvE raids again, or multiple Stamplars. Warden. So this is one change I don't kind of agree with. Sleet Storm, the ultimate permafrost morph, reduce the damage done on this morph by 50% to ensure this morph functions primarily as a utility and defensive morph. That's fine, sure, why not? But this is the change I don't agree with. In regards to the other morph, Northern Storm, the max magicka granted from this morph is no longer enabled passively by slotting. Instead, it is granted for 30 seconds after activating the ultimate. Increase the amount of magicka granted to 9% from 8%. This morph now, okay, whatever. But this is something I kind of don't agree with, for sure. Like, I think this kind of takes away from the ability. I mean, for PvP, you're going to be using permafrost anyway. For PvE, this is more of a PvE issue, in my opinion. For Northern Storm, like, if I'm Warden healing, I'm going to slot it on one bar. Probably like the resto bar, right? And I passively get the max magicka from it, just from slotting it on that one bar. And it's like, you don't use the ultimate often because you, as a healer, you're going to be using Warhorn or something like that in a lot of scenarios. So you'll never really be using Northern Storm unless it's for like an oh shit, you know, oh shit emergency, or if you intentionally want to mitigate damage in like Sanctum of Phidia or Halls of Fabrication or whatever, right? But the fact that they, you know, removed the passive max magicka you get from it and moved it to activation of the ultimate, kind of like Flawless Dawnbreaker, where you have to activate it now to get the passive weapon damage and stuff like that. I don't think this was a good change, personally. It's consistent, I suppose, from a certain point of view, since they gave it the same treatment that they gave Dawnbreaker, but I don't really see any healer really slotting this anymore in a lot of cases for PvE, because like you're not gonna get a horn in like 30 seconds after you use Northern Storm, and you're not gonna get max magicka out of it from slotting it. I just don't see this as a good change for PvE. I would, if it were up to me, I'd probably just keep the same value and just keep it the way it was personally. Yeah, this is just one thing I don't agree with. Like, in the same line of thinking, why not just take away the passive max stamina, max magic given by bound armaments and bound ages on the Sorks? You know what I mean? Like, if you were like, okay, you get max magic and max stamina if you activate bound armaments or bound ages, it's like, why? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, dude. But I think this is something they should look at. I don't think it's very attractive for me as a warden healer, or even like you're just a warden healer, or even a warden tank. To be honest, like it's a really good passive ultimate to have. I just don't understand why they had to touch this part, but I guess whatever. Weapons: two-hander, berserker strike, onslaught, morph, and this is again in regards to PvP. You'll still get the 100% armor penetration at rank 4, but you get 85% armor penetration at rank 1, so it basically progresses to 100%. However, they decrease the duration to 5 seconds from 9. And I think this was overall a good attempt at addressing how strong the ultimate is, for sure. And I think there's a developer comment. These changes were done to ensure you still gain a very powerful effect to enable your playstyle, but the lower duration requires you to properly capitalize on the time period by going aggressive, while enemies can use the time to thwart this by utilizing CC, movement abilities, retaliating. Sometimes, with this ability used against you in certain circumstances, I've been PvPing recently a little bit, but it's like like in some cases, you don't need more than 5 seconds to completely wreck someone with onslaught. The 9 seconds for sure was overkill, so I'm glad that they at least addressed that part. But that is pretty much it for the patch notes. Everything else you guys can kind of read. I'll leave the link in the description down below in the video description. Sorry, but they did fix this as well. Crushing Wall, where your VMA enchant, or rather VMA 2 piece bonus, wasn't working after your wall expired. So this is also another thing I kind of want to bring up. So stamina DPS can use the VMA staves in PvE to boost their ally attacks. I haven't really seen anything so far that addresses that, and you actually do get a pretty good parse with a VMA staff as a stamina DPS, so I don't know how they're going to address that. But that is pretty much it for these patch notes. Thanks for reviewing these patch notes with me, guys, and I'll be posting more PTS videos and other stuff on my channel, and I'll also be working on a more solid stream schedule, so look out for that as well. Thanks for Netflix and chilling. I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe and have fun.